Hello, everyone, and thank you, Ninna, for again letting me be a part of your event. So, here we are today to talk about womanhood and what really it means. So, today on a panel, we have three wonderful women. We have Jyotsna Kaur Habibullah, who's the CEO of Lucknow Farmers Market in India, and we have Jyotsna Siddharth. They are the country director of Gender at Work, and she's also an activist, artist, and a writer, and was also featured under 40 Under 40 by Edex and the New India Express. And we have Nikki Gupta, who runs We Do Things, which is a marketing and business platform. Nikki is also a former writer, and she has been a part of the industry for a while. So, okay, guys.
Hi, it's great to be here.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes, of course, we can all hear you.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So can we start off with the questions?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. All right. So the first question is, so for years, women have had to face challenges to be seen and accepted while struggling just to avail something as basic as fundamental rights. And for that also we get to hear things like uh, women are being given too much of rights today, which is something as it's actually a basic thing, a basic human right. So we've come far today, but is it enough or is it easier to survive as a woman in today's state? Because we might have different struggles, but do you think it's the same or the struggles are different now? What is your take on it?
Is that for me? Sorry.
Whoever wants to answer,
I
please.
can't.
Jyotsna, would you like to
Okay,
answer?
perfect.
Jyotsna
Go
Kaur?
ahead.
Okay, now we're going to have this Jyotsna business. So, hi, Jyotsna Siddharth. It's
Yeah.
nice to have my namesake here. So, you'll have to call us Jyotsna Kaur and Siddharth.
Yeah.
I think that this is a double edged question, because I think many of us, we come from a position of privilege where, the doors are not closed for us, And for instance, I have a really supportive husband and parents and family who actually are my support system, and who actually support me in doing everything that I want to do. But it's the other ones who don't have those opportunities, right? That we have to actually open doors for, and it's not easier for them. I mean, I can tell you because I'm working in Lucknow with women entrepreneurs. I have an all-woman team. There are still girls who cannot choose what they want to study in college, who are told that you've got to get married. Why do you want to decide what you want to study? Finish your degree and come back. Their parents actually send them to college. Now, why are you sending a girl to college and you're giving her the opportunity to think and to be exposed to a different environment, and then you tell her, but you've got to just get married and come back? So it hasn't got easier. There's a lot more of these conversations that need to be had, and it's that's the way it is. This is something that is some we have to continue to talk about. We have to create a lot more awareness about and give women the tools. So organizations need to actually support The colleges need to actually support these girls when these kind of situations are happening. And we need to have a lot more of these conversations in the rural areas too.
I agree. I agree with what you were saying, Jyotsna, because with time I feel it's gotten only easier for us where privilege kind of comes in. But seeing that down below in the chain, you realize that it's still far out. And if we can extend our privileges to them and help them get better, is something where the balance can come in. I still feel it's a skewed 70-30 ratio where we still get and fight our way through it because of support from family and friends and those around us. But down below I work with farmers quite a bit in Maharashtra. And some of the farmers I work with, they have kids and the women aren't allowed to study after a point. The entire idea is to have her qualified enough to get a better husband, not to get her qualified to do something with her life. So at the end of the day, it again boils down to the same thing. First we had a 10th pass girl, now we have a graduate girl just for a um, better husband.
All right. Jyotsna, would you like to say something, Siddharth?
Yeah, yeah, no, I think I'm resonating with Nikki and Jyotsna, what they've said. I think the question is also really about, I mean, in today's context and also within the feminist movement, right? I think we've done a lot of progress. We've made a lot of progress over the past few decades, but I think there is a long way to go when it comes to women's rights. Looking at the current political climate as well, I think, and also Indian society in general, women have always been treated as subordinate citizens, and that hasn't really changed. And I think also what if the dialogue that we're having, what defines a woman? I think that should be the question, because um, there's only like a representation, an imagery of women that fits into a very cis heteronormative and brahminical understanding of what
Yeah.
a woman should look like.
Correct.
And that imagery is also coming from this whole imagery of Hindu women, right? And how a woman, as a woman, has to be a bit, petite, slim, fair, with long hair. And obviously trans women gets excluded from that, but they're not even
Yeah.
seen as women, right? So I think there is a whole journey that we're on. I'm so grateful and indebted to the feminist movement and to the women who've championed and questioned within their private personal lives, which always go invisible, but also within the public spaces where they are doing the dialogue, really questioning, doing these everyday navigations within their own work and relationships. I think all of that, and now that we are somewhat beginning to understand the trans issues, I think there is a long way to go. And then there is also sort of intersectionality with caste and religion and the minority issues, right? And also who identifies as women. And I think all of these things, we there's a long way to go, and I think it's just about happening now. But as far as the normative understanding of women is concerned, or as well as the rights of women are concerned, they are still constantly being crushed, and the voice of dissent is being, the spaces have shrunk. And I think today we need to be talking about women's rights in a more inclusive, holistic way, to take this discourse forward. I think these are just two of my bits. But thank you for starting with questions, because I think we always get into the speaking, but I think it's so great to be starting with questions and getting straight into it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. So the next question is, while growing up, almost all of us, we all have heard this phrase, women are their own worst enemies. So do you guys actually agree with that, or do you believe that it is another belief where patriarchy is the root cause of all of it?
See, I think it's a bit too simplistic to say that women are their own enemies. Here we were talking about, and at the end of the previous session, They all talked about the support structures, and I think none of us could have really got where we were without our support structures. And our most,
Exactly.
our best support structures are our moms, our mom-in-laws, our a lot of the women staff at home, other women at work. I have always found. I mean, of course, there are supportive men around me too, but I think that uh, it's a positive attitude that you've got to reach out to. So if you don't sort of allow anyone, male or female, to think that you are better than them, but you're reaching out in a spirit of either needing help or telling them what your problem is, right? We don't have to be perfect all the time to think that I am the superwoman and I can do everything, right? So it's okay, if I didn't blow dry my hair, or I didn't go and put on makeup before every single session that I have, because maybe I had a busy day today. We've got actually an exhibition going on and so many other things happening. So we don't have to think that we've got to have everything figured out all the time. And who do we reach out for that? Obviously other women. So I definitely don't agree with this, and it is a patriarchal statement. I firmly agree.
I think for me, the last 2 years is when I kind of understood the importance of womanhood and sisterhood on a larger level. For me, before that, it was always, um, I always reached out to men for support and never to women, because I always felt that they weren't for you. With time, after and COVID especially made me kind of realize how important it was to have that emotional warm connection versus that black and white life, which it's either you just go get things done by yourself without any help, and that's what makes you a person. But that was coming so strongly from the entire patriarchal approach on how things have to work, that I can't be more thankful. In the last 2 years, the amount of growth I've seen as an individual has been far more, only because I reached out, and I never tried to do that before ever. So yeah, if 2 years back we had this conversation, I would say, yeah, women hate each other, but I think I would disagree this time.
I think same for me, a bit similar. I think growing up, I grew up a lot with boys, and always had friends as men. And I think as I started growing up, that changed for me. I think it is a very patriarchal, misogynist construct that women are women's enemies. I think that there is so much internalization of patriarchy and misogyny within all of us, and the whole life is about undoing some of those things, right, every day. And I think we have so many inherent stereotypes, and the way we've been socialized into our society, into our families, of having certain expectations, and also the need to prove and need to be better than men. And I think that I firmly believe women are superior than men. So I don't want to compare myself to men, because the kind of bandwidth, labor, and work that we do, which always go invisibilized, it is invisibilized, and it goes really like in the back end of it. So I feel like it's also this way of like pitting women against each other, which patriarchal and its sort of apparatuses do. But I think that's where I feel that the lives and navigations of women are so double-edged, in that way that they have to constantly question, at least they question their internalized patriarchy, which I don't think men do. And also going beyond the binaries, right? Like I think we all have internalized phobias and these patriarchal constructs, and so women are constantly like fighting with other people, as well as fighting them within themselves and with their own sisters, which I don't see men doing. So I think it's a way to sort of position that way, but I obviously think it's not true.
Also, this entire thing, I think we all notice, like, ever since we were kids, how women are pitted against each other for the smallest of things, like, she's prettier than you won't be as pretty as her. This entire thing, like, everything boils down to your physical appearance, no matter how smart you are. Like they will still be like, but wo sundar to hai ra. That typical thing, when they look at a girl. So I think that also has a lot of it. Like this is how women end up thinking. They start comparing with each other. No matter I've seen the prettiest of women, no matter how attractive, how perfect conventionally they might be, but they still feel like no. They still feel threatened by another woman, unfortunately, because of these things.
Absolutely
So
Couldn't,
agree with you.
yeah.
yeah. So I'll get to the next question now. Yeah. So does it get difficult for women to find a partner as they age? If yes, then why do you feel it happens?
I think it gets difficult for women to find partners the moment they go on their own journey of self discovery and learning about themselves and questioning the existing social um, constructs and conditioning. Whoever does that, life is only downhill from there. And I think that it is obviously difficult for women to find partners because as you're aging, you're also more firm. You have a little bit more money and economic independence, I hope. Talking about a certain class, but also you're not seen as the sexual body. You're seen as a body which is not pure and sacrosanct in that way. So it becomes nobody really cares in that way, right? And also, so then it becomes difficult for women to find partners. But I think it's also this fact that as you grow older, you become more mature and you have a certain ideas which you're very sure of. You don't want to compromise on values, at least. And you have a higher standard and benchmark to what kind of partner you want, and you're not
Exactly.
ready to
Yeah.
take crap. And I think that's what makes it difficult also, in my view.
Yeah, it definitely does get difficult, more so because we aren't malleable anymore to something that people could kind of shape us into, mostly partners or families of partners. And I feel that becomes obstructive. It gets intimidating for men that we know what we want. And ironically, I've heard that so much in the last couple of, like in the last 2 3 years, where I've straight up been told that you know what you want to do, you're earning money. What is the guy gonna do? And I said nothing. Like, you don't have to take care of me. I just took away half your worry. But I feel that that doesn't go down well. Earlier this year, I was traveling to America, and that was the first time I was in a society where being your own self was appreciated. And I think I've not spent extended time as an adult in another country to see another culture or how cross culturally people live. That's when I realized somewhere that it's not only our country being a little behind on how we observe things. I think somewhere we've also taken the effort to learn, get better, and go ahead much faster than everybody else around us. And unfortunately, that's not a plus point over here. So yeah, it definitely does get highly difficult, especially if you're trying to look and how they kind of view you. It definitely does get.
Yeah, I hear you both, and though I agree with that, I'm really happy to see that younger girls now are actually asking for what older women would want in a
Yeah.
relationship, right? So it is so nice to see. I mean, we have a center in our village in Barabanki, which is about an hour outside Lucknow, and the girls, they want to study, they want careers, right? They want people who appreciate them for what they are. So if you can find women who are, in a rural area, who are thinking like that, and of course, I see girls in college here in Lucknow, in Delhi, in Bombay, and a lot of my friends say that, oh, our daughters are now 30, they are enjoying what they're doing. They don't want to settle for less,
Lovely.
right? So this is a concept which is now starting much younger. So the concept, I think, is not of age. The concept is more about women realizing, like what you said, Jyotsna, Siddharth, that this is what we want, right? We know what we want, and we're
True.
not going to take rubbish from anyone, right? We are not going to be walkovers. and we're not going to be the only one like Atlas, holding the world on our shoulders. So if you're ready to, shoulder the load with me, I'm ready to come and be your partner. If you're not, I'm fine as I am.
I just want to add to that. I think I absolutely agree with you, but I think it's also, I mean, like you said, it's not about the age, right? I think it's about the maturity and also recognizing yourself as a person. I think I think with for trans women, it's again not about the age, right? I think for them to find partners is so difficult in present and is always difficult because, well, they're not even considered to be women, and people don't want to date them, and I think men, women included. I think it's just this aspect of finding partners where they meet you halfway, as you're saying, Jyotsna, and I think that's really, really important.
Also because, like, how women are seen as a baby vessel, even though people might not accept it. So this aging thing, like like my mom was like, biologically it's not right for you to get married late. I was like, that has nothing to do with biology. Me not like getting married at the right age. And like even when I meet, whether it's a dating app or anyone, all the men I meet, all of them want a baby, but none of them are ready to settle on time. I mean, then they want someone younger. So it's that kind of thing. I'm like, okay, decide, what do you want? You want someone, but at the same time, if I want to date someone younger, even if it's someone 5 years younger, for me it'll be, for the guy will be bragging about it, like, oh, I'm dating an older woman. If I date someone 5 years older, I don't go out thinking, oh, I'm dating an older man, do I? I don't do that. So this entire thing is so confusing that even when so it takes time. For example, I think all of us, like most of us, are in our 30s. So and being like, I am definitely a single woman in her 30s. So like when I meet people, and most this has become my life now. Like recently, someone told me about how that if by 35 that won't be the right age because like for having a baby. I was like, have you heard of freezing eggs? But I'm talking about natural way. And then I was like, okay, natural way. So what is more natural than giving birth? Like, it's still like natural birth, right? So, and then talking about trans women at the same time, like that movie, I'm sure you might have watched the movie Kare Ashiki. So I just watch it to see how they make it. But for it's a start for the Indian audience, because obviously we can't go deep in through it to make them understand. So I watched that, and at the same time, the first thing was like, even though she was a woman, she is a woman, the guy would still be like, "Tu ladka hai." The first thing, I was like, why don't you accept it? Like, a woman is a woman. Why do you have to the typical construct around gender? So yeah, finding a guy, it's not about aging, just aging. It's actually finding a girl. Actually, that's easier.
So I'll just add
Don't
something
judge.
here. No, Parthavee, we are not all in our 30s. I'm actually 45, and I am married with two kids. But a lot of my friends, from school and college, who could be in their early 40s or even in their mid 40s, and who are not married. So this was a conversation that, we
Hmm.
had where people
Hmm.
are under pressure, where they're told, and their doctors have told them, and they realize the biological clock is ticking. But see, now you have to realize, what are you going to do? It's not like you can't go to a mall and pick out somebody and say, that's it now, I'm
Exactly.
ready to get married. So let's just pick out this guy and go ahead and have a baby. So this is a decision that you make for the rest of your life. You can't make a decision like that. And I have to give you the example of this amazing friend of mine who decided that, since she hasn't found the right partner, she went ahead and, she got a donor and she had a baby because she wanted to be a mom. Now, I mean, we're going to talk about that later. Not all women want to be a mother, but if you want a
Exactly.
partner just to have a baby, you don't need a partner to have a baby, right? As long as you have the support system and you're, financially stable. So I think sometimes women also are looking for partners for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair.
Also
I
because
also feel
having
like
a baby, even being a single mother, again, being a single mother is again a difficult. even though she's perfectly fine and doing everything, the society will try to pull her down for just being able to, even though she can do everything and none of them can provide, like, for example, someone like Shushmita Sen, people still question, right? Even though she's brilliantly raised two daughters. So it's not exactly as easy. The point is how it is difficult no matter what you do. So I'll go to the next question now. So why is it important to highlight and focus on inclusivity based on caste and gender? Jyotsna, would you like to take the question, Siddharth?
I Yeah, I was thinking. I guess I keep saying this, that as we're born in this country, we're born with two things, two labels. One is caste, and the other is gender. And we all have a caste, and we all have a gender. And I guess I don't know about other people, but I'm constantly trying to navigate and question what those identities mean, why they are there, because they are not self addressed or self claimed. They are being given to you, and your whole life goes into questioning why are they given to you, what does that, because it has a bearing of who you can be, how you can live your life, what kind of opportunities you would have. Also, being a Dalit queer woman, what spaces can I navigate into? Then also, like, so many things, right? Like, how do you look? Why do you look in a certain way? How can you look? Like, what is the limits of what you can be? All of that is defined by your caste and by your gender. And I think that it's important to question those, because they're fairly limiting and unfair to the limits of, and to have an experience of being a human, being a person, being a woman. I don't want to be limited by these constructs, which are things that I didn't ask for, but it constantly shapes and limits my life, and inhibits me, protects me from having access to a lot of things, right? Education, health, career opportunities, and also then depends upon the geography, like where are we located? Are we in urban space or are in rural space? And then that sort of continues. And I think that's why it's important, because it's important to coexist, it's important to live together, and we're not all the same, and we all need to make space for each other to be able to live in a civil but in a nice compassionate way, because we share this planet, we share this society, and we share resources, we share all of those things, right? So I guess that conversation is extremely important.
So,
Yeah,
like,
I sorry, go on.
sorry. So I was
No, no, go on. Go on.
reading this book. Did we lose Jyotsna? What happened?
Yeah, we lost both of them somehow.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
all right. I think they'll join back. Jyotsna is back. I'm waiting for the other Jyotsna, but we can talk till then. So, Jyotsna, did you hear the question about gender and caste?
Yes, yes. I'm sorry
Okay,
about
we
that.
have Jyotsna
Uh,
back. No, okay.
some disconnect suddenly.
Sh-
So I
Yeah.
think what's really important is, you know, the stereotypes, of course, are there, right? Um, One thing is it's about speaking up, you know. So if you hear somebody making a comment that you feel, goes against, somebody else's, self. You are supposed to say that it's wrong, right? So often we are silent when we see wrong behavior or when we hear the way people talk. It's those kind of behavior we are actually enabling. We may not be doing it ourselves, but we are enabling that kind of behavior by allowing people to continue to talk like that, right? I think Jyotsna Siddharth was in the middle of what she was saying, so shall we have her finish what she was saying before we carry on?
She's back, right?
Um, sure, I'm
Jyotsna?
back. I'm not sure where you lost me. Um, I
Yeah.
said a bunch of things.
All right. So, yeah, Jyotsna was just telling us, but you want to speak more about it, or should I let Jyotsna continue and you can join in? Uh, should I let Jyotsna Kaur speak and then you join in?
No, no, let Jyotsna Siddharth finish because she was in the middle of her
Yeah.
discussion on. on gender, and I think she has a very valid point to make. So
No,
Yeah.
I'm not sure where you lost me, but I'll just try to summarize. Essentially, what I was saying was that in our society, we're born with two identities, which are, and also three, but primarily two, which is gender and caste. And our own, I mean, it's not like people from the dominant caste don't have a caste, right? And I think that our entire life it goes into navigating these two constructs, which are not self-claimed but imposed by society on us, and how what can we do and experience life and have this human experience of being alive is all determined by these two constructs, and they constantly limit to what we can achieve or not achieve, or who we can be or cannot be. And which is why this discourse is so important, because as a society we live together, we should be able to live together and coexist with all our differences, and honor the social contract that we all kind of abide by, even through constitution. But I guess more and more we're seeing that that's not happening. And I guess to be able to build this equitable society where we want everyone to be equal or have equal opportunities, we require some of these conversations to become an everyday practice.
Also, do you feel like the even when it comes to gender and caste, uh, but among all the castes, even in like under that category also, how women are oppressed differently, like in every caste itself. Like there is first there's casteism, then there's under that also women are oppressed differently. Like even if it's like some, for example, how this is like any of the communities which are looked upon as a lower caste, uh, even in those marginalized communities, how there also women are treated. So it's like, so how do you prioritize? Would you put gender first or caste first? It's a very confusing question, you know.
I think for me, it goes together. Like, I cannot see caste without gender. I cannot see gender
Yeah,
without caste. So for me, it's caste
exactly.
gender or casting gender or gendering caste
Yeah,
rather than choosing, because both your identities are quite prominent and inseparable and makes you who you are, right? I mean, I'm a woman of a Dalit community. So I cannot separate myself from my community or the historic, uh, you know, historicity of the discrimination and abuse, which continues in different ways. But I think I share that with the women of other marginalized communities, of Muslim women or trans women or like Adivasi women or women who are working on the road as daily wage laborers. I think these are all of those things that become crucial and are not part of the discourse of women in that sense.
yeah. Also, like when it comes to
another
caste, you know how people become like there are many people, of course, the privileged ones. I heard it from someone, and when they say things like, "But you know, today's date, at least I don't treat them differently." I was like, "But that's not the point. The point is, if you belong to a particular community, where if you even try to share the same table to have a meal with another person from an upper caste, or if you are demeaned for that, if you're treated as dirt." And when my friend was like, "But that never happens, I don't do that." I was like, "That's the point. You will never know because you don't belong to that community. You are not killed for your caste. I will never get, I'm an upper caste Hindu. I'm not going to get killed for being a Rajput in India." You know, it is a privilege. Being woman might not be a privilege, but then my caste again saves me. So, yeah, Jyotsna, were you saying something?
Yes, even in the economic, if you look at sort of ownership of industries and enterprises, so even if we look at that, it's still very skewed, where definitely the so-called lower castes have a much lower ownership, than of course there's been this whole OBC uh, sort of quotas which came up, which actually led to businesses being owned by certain, castes. But um, this is we're still lagging far behind, equality and caste. So it's not enough. of course, there's an attitude change that's required, but there's a lot of policy changes also that are required to bring this up to power.
All right. Nikki, would you like to say
Yeah.
something?
Yeah, I was um, while you're both talking, I was thinking about how society has systems for us to coexist in harmony, and somehow these systems have become identities, and these identities have further pulled us more back versus forward, which makes me think that how much is system really helping us actually grow forward versus benefiting only those who already have privilege and helping them go ahead, which continuously tries to take away from those who don't have. um, so like Jyotsna Kaur said, that systemically things have to change, because those who are down below, how much ever they scream, the ones that are up have to hear and actually push this movement a lot more. So, gender and caste are things that um, those who don't go through have to fight for it furthermore, for the ones that are down below to actually be heard. Because after some time, for us, that just becomes noise and it loses its charm when they are speaking for themselves. So, for even in the entire idea of feminism, I feel we can scream and yell as much as we want, but even if two more men speak on your behalf, the entire movement further gets uh, pushed, and that really, really helps. You'll see women behave, walk, and do things differently when they know their fathers, their husbands, or their guy friends are supporting them. So I mean, I just feel gender and caste were to help us identify each other, and now that's become such a core part of who we are that we are binded by it more, and we're not able to get ourselves out of it.
All right. Thank you so much. So the next question is, which I think all of you will be able to relate to. Is it easy being a strong, independent, self-made woman, or do the struggles get worse?
I
Jyotsna
don't
Kaur,
really
would you
think
like
it
to?
gets worse. I mean, see, obviously, it depends on like what we all the things that you're talking about. That what's your background. What sort of support system do you have? What kind of education and what are you sort of what access do you have? So being strong and independent, it's all it depends on all these different things. So when all these things fit together, of course you can be strong and independent. Otherwise you're battling so many things all the time that it sometimes becomes something. For instance, there's a Harvard survey which talks about women and men at the workplace, and where men are seen as they give people a whole range of um, circumstances, and then they ask them to rate this person on their behavior without knowing if they're a man or a woman. I mean, telling them that they're a man or a woman. Now the moment it's a man, then his behavior is confident and he's seen as assertive, and all everything that's positive is attributed to him. But the moment it's a woman doing the same things, suddenly she's aggressive, and she's loud, and she's bossy. It's exactly the same traits, it's exactly the same situations, right? So why is that? That's just because a woman who's successful is seen as that, right? So this is something that we've got to continue to battle with. Just because we are independent and successful, a man is independent and successful, nobody questions him. Men are just supposed to be independent and successful, right? So men don't
Yeah.
carry that burden of everything. He doesn't have to look perfect all the time. I think so. A woman has to work like a horse and look half her age, and I mean, whereas all these are not expectations that are there from men. We have to work doubly as hard to make sure that our work is measured and our work is visible. So it it's just, I think it's something that women have to live with, that if we want to be successful, we have to ensure that we have to fight it out. I don't know when that's going to change, but it hasn't changed yet. So we've got to continue to fight it out.
Yeah, and this typical notion of successful women end up alone. I'm sure many of us have heard that, you know. So
Yeah.
again, like, and I am seeing all successful women over here. Jyotsna is married, but then again, you know what I'm saying, right? So yeah, Nikki, would you like to say something about this?
Yeah, I feel like we've also taken it upon ourselves somewhere. Once we get strong and independent, we feel like we can't ask for help, and it kind of comes back to where we were at. I feel like if you're able to just do that much for ourselves and put ourselves before everybody else, I think we'll do ourselves a favor and just be a little less burdened, because by default we know we can multitask, we can do a lot of things at once. So instead of proving that, if we could just share the load or ask for help, I think that really helps. Because this notion of being successful and single is also something that's told to us so many times that we kind of manifest that for ourselves also, where we are also projecting that everywhere we go. We think differently also because of that. So I feel like somewhere, if we could not only identify ourselves with these kind of terms and definitions, but leave that on the side and operate as individuals, and not take up the entire part of being identified by these terms, I feel it'll really help us as well. There's only this much other people can do for us to make us feel better or lighten, but there's some place where we need to stand up for ourselves before we stand up for everybody else.
Yeah, because many of us, we end up being our moms. Like when I was a
Yes.
kid, I'll see my mom being all busy and this. She'll eat, even though she's a woman, it doesn't really matter. Why would they care? So everyone's done with their dinner, and then she'll finally sit. And I used to be like, never going to become like her when I grow up. And today I'm known as the mother of every, like in all my friend circles. And I realized I've turned into another version of her. And Jyotsna Siddharth is my friend, so she knows about this. So, so yeah, Jyotsna, would you
But
I
like to
think
say
it,
something?
we've got to stop ourselves from doing, right? Because as women, many of us are naturally nurturing, but you can't nurture other people at the cost of yourself, right? So this concept
Exactly, exactly.
me really angry. This concept of saying, yeah, I have two boys, they are 13 and 15. Yes, of course, I have done things for them, but I did things for them to teach them to do things for themselves. So, this idea of the mom sitting there, doing things for everybody all the time while everybody's sitting and relaxing, this is a concept we've got to change, right? So, I
Correct.
speak to many young people at colleges, and the change that I've seen that's come over the last decade, where you would ask boys earlier, what do you do around the house? From saying that I help out my mom, they've started saying, I take responsibility for this, right? Because you don't help out in your own house. The concept of saying you help out means you're doing somebody else's work. Why is it somebody else's work, right?
Yeah.
It's your work too. So this is something that this has to change from each one of us. We've got to make this change.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Jyotsna, would you like to say something? Because we have like 3, 4 minutes left.
Yeah, I just want to say I agree with all the panelists, and I think that this independent, strong woman thing is a trap that we are constantly falling into, because men do not do everything by themselves. That's an assumption. That's a myth, because we have all kind of formal, informal institutions supporting them. You have, as men have the right to property, inheritance, and so many other things. There's always labor of women going into supporting their careers, their relationships, crisis management, emotional management, all kind of things. So it's a false narrative that if a man says I'm self-made, because nobody is self-made. You're using labor of many other people, not just women, to be able to become somebody. So I think, as women, we need also to build as many support systems as we need, both financially, non-financially, indirect, direct. all kinds of institutions, we need as much support and more, because we're also, as you know, not all of us are same, but I think we're all invested in many, many other things, and it's not possible to do all of that alone. And I think this is also one of the needs, and was a sort of narrative that came in with with the first wave, second wave feminism, and there has been a progress made where we no longer want to just keep proving. We also want to live our lives, because so much work has been done,
It's true.
and we want
Yeah.
accountability from society, from men, to share the work, because I don't want to keep like cleaning after someone, and I don't want to keep doing their added burden. And who's doing mine? I'm also going to hire some domestic help, who's again a woman, to share that burden, right? So I think in some ways we all need to be go towards accountability for our things, and men need to be far more independent, which I don't think they are. But that's a myth, that they are very self-made and very independent. I think there's an invisibilized labor of all kinds of people, including women, which is going unnoticed. So I think it's a trap which we should refrain from sometimes, and ask, like as all Nikki and Jyotsna were also saying, ask when you need something, and also really put forward, this is my need. I need you to do this. And not doesn't limit just to a partner, but also to family, to friends, and to build that support system, I think is important.
All right. Thank you so much, all of you. It was actually great having and like all three of you. And I'm sure, like, I don't know if people will learn something or not, but at least they got a point of view. Like, people think you just have to put it in the head. They'll think about it later. So thank you so much, and I shall now head on to the next panel for Ninna to head. All right.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
guys.
Thank you so much. Bye.
So all of yeah. So everyone,